Chapter 1. Early Life and Background. Barack Hussein Obama II was born on August 4, 1961, in Honolulu, Hawaii. His birthplace, known for its rich cultural diversity and stunning landscapes, served as a unique backdrop for his early years. Barack's heritage is a blend of two distinct worlds, his father's Kenyan roots and his mother's Midwestern American background. Barack's father, Barack Obama Sr., was born in 1936 in Nyang'homa, Kenya. He was part of the Luo ethnic group, one of the country's larger communities. Barack Sr.'s father, Hussein Onyango Obama, was a respected elder who worked as a cook for British colonists. Known for his intelligence and determination, Onyango's life was marked by both struggle and resilience, reflective of Kenya's colonial past and its fight for independence. On the other side of Barack's lineage was his mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, born on November 29, 1942, in Wichita, Kansas. Ann's family had roots in the American Midwest, with a mix of English, Scottish, Irish, German, and Swiss ancestry. Her parents, Stanley Armour Dunham and Madeline Lee Payne, embodied the strong work ethic and adventurous spirit typical of mid-20th century Americans. The Dunhams moved frequently due to economic hardships and opportunities, eventually settling in Hawaii. Barack's early years were spent in a modest apartment in the University District of Honolulu. His mother, Ann, was a student at the University of Hawaii, where she met Barack Obama Sr., who was studying on a scholarship. Barack Sr. was a charismatic and intelligent man, but the relationship faced challenges, including cultural differences and his ambitious nature. When Barack was 2 years old, his parents separated. Barack Sr. left for Harvard University to pursue a Ph.D. in economics, and the distance, coupled with differing aspirations, led to the dissolution of their marriage. And later married Lolo Sitoro, an Indonesian student at the University of Hawaii. In 1967, at the age of 6, Barack moved with his mother and stepfather to Jakarta, Indonesia. This period exposed him to yet another culture, adding complexity to his already diverse background. Indonesia in the late 1960s and early 1970s was recovering from political turmoil, and life there was a stark contrast to the relative stability of Hawaii. In Jakarta, Barack attended local schools and adapted to the language and customs. His mother worked in rural development, while Lolo held various jobs, including a stint with an American oil company. Despite living modestly, Ann's passion for education and her progressive ideals deeply influenced Barack during these formative years. She instilled in him the importance of empathy, cultural understanding, and the value of education. Concerned about Barack's education in Indonesia, and sent him back to Hawaii in 1971 to live with his grandparents, Madeline and Stanley Dunham. She returned to Hawaii a year later but eventually moved back to Indonesia for work, while Barack remained with his grandparents to continue his education. In Hawaii, Barack was enrolled in the prestigious Punahou School, one of the state's top private schools. His admission was a testament to his academic potential, but also marked the beginning of his experiences with race and identity in a more pronounced way. Punahou's student body was predominantly white and affluent, contrasting sharply with his more modest background and mixed-race heritage. At Punahou, Barack thrived academically but grappled with questions of identity and belonging. He was one of the few black students, and this experience shaped his understanding of race in America. During his teenage years, Barack sought out mentors and role models who could provide guidance and a sense of belonging. His grandfather, Stanley Dunham, was a significant influence, instilling in him the values of resilience and perseverance. Frank Marshall Davis, a family friend and journalist, also played a mentorship role, introducing Barack to literature and political thought that challenged conventional views. Growing up in Hawaii, Barack developed a deep appreciation for the state's multicultural environment, which celebrated diversity. This background fostered a worldview that embraced inclusivity and the richness of different cultures. However, the The struggle to reconcile his mixed-race identity and the absence of his father were recurring themes in his early reflections. Barack began writing essays and poems that explored his feelings about race, identity, and belonging. These early writings hinted at the introspective and thoughtful nature that would later define his public persona and oratory skills. Barack Obama's early life was marked by a rich tapestry of cultural experiences, educational opportunities, and personal challenges. From the sunlit shores of Hawaii to the bustling streets of Jakarta, his journey was shaped by diverse influences that laid the foundation for his future as a community organizer, law professor, politician, and ultimately, the President of the United States. These formative years instilled in him the values of empathy, resilience, and a deep commitment to understanding and bridging cultural divides, qualities that would become hallmarks of his leadership and legacy. Chapter 2: Adolescence and Young Adulthood. As Barack Obama entered his teenage years, his life became increasingly shaped by the interplay of personal ambition, intellectual curiosity, and the search for identity. His experiences during this period laid the groundwork for the man who would later captivate the world with his eloquence and vision for a united America. Barack's high school years at Punahou School were a time of academic achievement and personal growth. Punahou, an elite private school in Honolulu, offered an environment that was both nurturing and challenging. It was here that Barack began to seriously grapple with his racial identity. As one of the few black students in a predominantly white institution, he often felt like an outsider, caught between different worlds. He described these feelings in his memoir, Dreams from My Father, reflecting on the internal conflict of not fully belonging to either the black or white communities. Despite these challenges, Barack excelled academically. He was known for his intelligence, charisma, and leadership potential. Teachers and classmates recognized his ability to engage with complex ideas and his passion for social justice. He was also an avid basketball player, which provided him with a sense of belonging and a way to channel his competitive spirit. Basketball became a metaphor for his life, a game where skill, strategy, and teamwork were essential for success. Outside of school, Barack was influenced by his grandfather, Stanley Dunham, and his mother, Ann Dunham. Stanley, a World War II veteran, shared stories of resilience and perseverance, while Ann's progressive ideals and dedication to social causes shaped Barack's worldview. He was also mentored by Frank Marshall Davis, a family friend and journalist with strong political views. Davis introduced Barack to a wider array of political and social ideas, encouraging him to think critically about race, class, and power. Barack's journey of self-discovery continued when he left Hawaii for Occidental College in Los Angeles. At Occidental, he immersed himself in the vibrant intellectual and cultural life of the college. It was a period of significant political awakening for him. He became involved in various social and political causes, participating in protests and advocating for divestment from South Africa in response to apartheid. These experiences deepened his understanding of activism and the power of collective action. During his time at Occidental, Barack began to form a clearer sense of his identity and purpose. He transferred to Columbia University in New York City, seeking a larger stage and more rigorous academic environment. New York, with its dynamic and diverse population, was the perfect place for Barack to broaden his horizons. He studied political science with a specialization in international relations, delving into the complexities of global politics and economics. Living in Harlem and attending classes at Columbia, Barack was exposed to the stark realities of urban life and the persistent racial and economic inequalities in America. These experiences reinforced his commitment to social justice and public service. He spent long hours in the library, reading works by political thinkers and civil rights leaders, and began to envision a career in public service that could address these systemic issues. After graduating from Columbia in 1983, Barack took a job as a researcher at a consulting firm, but he soon realized that the corporate world was not where he wanted to make his mark. He felt a growing desire to connect more directly with people and communities, to understand their struggles and aspirations. This led him to a transformative decision, to become a community organizer in Chicago. In 1985, Barack moved to Chicago to work for the Developing Communities Project, a faith-based organization on the city's South Side. His role involved working with local churches and residents to address issues such as unemployment, housing discrimination, and inadequate public services. This work was challenging and often frustrating, but it provided Barack with invaluable insights into the lives of ordinary Americans and the power of grassroots activism. During this time, Barack lived modestly, experiencing firsthand the struggles of the communities he served. He built strong relationships with local leaders and residents, learning to listen, empathize, and mobilize. These experiences were instrumental in shaping his political philosophy and his belief in the power of hope and collective action. As he worked in Chicago, Barack began to consider how he could amplify his impact. He realized that to effect broader change, he needed a deeper understanding of the law and its ability to serve as a tool for social justice. This realization led him to apply to law school, and in 1988, he was accepted into Harvard Law School. At Harvard, Barack's leadership skills quickly came to the fore. He made history by becoming the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review, a prestigious position that underscored his intellectual prowess and ability to navigate complex legal and social issues. His tenure at the Law Review was marked by efforts to bring together students from diverse ideological backgrounds, fostering a culture of open dialogue and mutual respect. During his summers, Barack returned to Chicago to work as a summer associate at a law firm, where he met Michelle Robinson, a young lawyer who would later become his wife and partner in life. Their relationship blossomed, rooted in shared values and a mutual commitment to public service. Barack graduated from Harvard Law School magna cum laude in 1991. Equipped with a robust legal education and a renewed sense of purpose, he returned to Chicago to work as a civil rights attorney and a lecturer at the University of Chicago Law School. His work focused on issues such as voting rights, employment discrimination, and housing equity, further solidifying his commitment to justice and equality. Barack Obama's adolescence and young adulthood were characterized by a relentless pursuit of knowledge, a deepening understanding of social justice, and a growing commitment to public service. These years laid the foundation for his future political career, shaping his vision for an America that lived up to its ideals of equality and opportunity for all. Chapter 3: Community Organizer and Law Student. Barack Obama's decision to move to Chicago in 1985 marked a significant turning point in his life, setting the stage for his development as a leader deeply committed to community and social justice. Working as a community organizer for the Developing Communities Project, DCP, a church-based organization on the South Side, Barack faced the challenging task of helping to revitalize economically depressed neighborhoods. His role involved addressing issues such as unemployment, housing discrimination, and inadequate public services, all while trying to mobilize residents and local leaders to advocate for their rights and resources. In Chicago, Barack encountered a city grappling with racial and economic divisions. The South Side, predominantly African American, was particularly affected by the economic downturn and systemic neglect. Barack's work required him to build trust within the community, listening to residents' concerns and helping them organize around common goals. His efforts often involved knocking on doors, holding meetings in church basements, and collaborating with local pastors and activists. It was demanding work that required patience, empathy, and resilience. One of the significant achievements during his tenure at DCP was his involvement in a successful campaign to improve living conditions in the Altgeld Gardens housing project. The project, plagued by asbestos contamination, inadequate heating, and poor maintenance, needed urgent attention. Barack helped organize residents, facilitating meetings with city officials and advocating for better services and repairs. This campaign not only improved living conditions for many families but also empowered residents by showing them the power of collective action. While Barack found fulfillment in his work, he also faced frustrations. Progress was often slow, and victories could be fleeting. He witnessed firsthand the limitations of grassroots organizing in the face of entrenched political and economic systems. These experiences deepened his understanding of the complexities of social change and reinforced his belief in the importance of systemic solutions. During this period, Barack began to contemplate his future and how he could amplify his impact. He realized that to effect broader change, he needed to understand the legal and political structures that govern society. This insight led him to apply to law school, seeking to equip himself with the knowledge and skills necessary to advocate for social justice on a larger scale. In 1988, Barack was accepted into Harvard Law School, one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. His time at Harvard was transformative. It not only honed his legal acumen but also expanded his network of mentors and peers who would later play crucial roles in his career. At Harvard, Barack's leadership qualities quickly became apparent. He made history by becoming the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review, a significant achievement that highlighted his intellectual abilities and his capacity to bridge divides within the student body. As president of the Law Review, Barack managed the publication staff and oversaw the editing of articles, a role that required diplomacy, rigorous analytical skills, and a deep understanding of legal principles. His tenure was marked by efforts to create an inclusive environment that valued diverse perspectives, reflecting his broader commitment to fostering dialogue and understanding across differences. During his summers, Barack returned to Chicago, where he worked as a summer associate at the law firm Sidley Austin. It was here that he met Michelle Robinson, a young lawyer who would later become his wife and an essential partner in his journey. Their relationship blossomed, rooted in shared values and a mutual commitment to public service. Michelle's intelligence, poise, and dedication to her community deeply impressed Barack, and their partnership would become a cornerstone of his personal and professional life. Barack graduated from Harvard Law School magna cum laude in 1991. His outstanding academic record and his leadership at the Law Review positioned him for a lucrative career in corporate law or academia. However, Barack chose a different path, driven by his commitment to social justice and community empowerment. He returned to Chicago to work as a civil rights attorney at the law firm Minor, Barnhill & Galland, which specialized in employment discrimination and voting rights cases. His work there allowed him to directly address issues of inequality and to use his legal skills to advocate for marginalized communities. In addition to his legal practice, Barack took on a role as a lecturer at the University of Chicago Law School, where he taught constitutional law. His classes were popular, known for their rigorous analysis and engaging discussions. Barack's ability to connect with students and convey complex ideas in accessible ways made him a respected figure among both students and faculty. Barack's dual roles as a lawyer and educator deepened his understanding of the law's potential to drive social change. He was particularly focused on issues of voting rights, believing that empowering people to participate in the democratic process was essential for achieving broader social justice. His work often brought him into contact with community leaders, activists, and ordinary citizens, reinforcing his belief in the importance of grassroots organizing and legal advocacy. Throughout this period, Barack continued to reflect on the broader political landscape and his potential role within it. The limitations he encountered as a community organizer and the systemic issues he addressed as a lawyer convinced him that more significant changes required political action. He began to see electoral politics as a crucial avenue for advancing his vision of a more just and equitable society. Barack Obama's years as a community organizer and law student were foundational in shaping his approach to leadership and social change. These experiences instilled in him a deep appreciation for the power of grassroots activism, the importance of legal advocacy, and the necessity of engaging with political systems to achieve lasting change. This chapter of his life set the stage for his entry into the political arena, where he would continue to champion the values of empathy, resilience, and collective action that had defined his early career. Chapter 4: The Path to Political Office. Barack Obama's journey from a community organizer and civil rights attorney to a political candidate began with his deepening involvement in Chicago's civic and political life. By the early 1990s, Barack had established himself as a committed advocate for social justice and a respected voice in the community. His decision to run for public office was driven by a desire to effect change on a broader scale and to address the systemic issues he had encountered throughout his career. In 1995, Barack announced his candidacy for the Illinois State Senate, representing the 13th District on Chicago's South Side. This decision was influenced by his growing belief that legislative action was essential to achieving meaningful social change. Barack's campaign focused on building coalitions and mobilizing voters around issues such as education, healthcare, and economic development. He emphasized his background as a community organizer and civil rights attorney, portraying himself as a candidate deeply connected to the needs and aspirations of his constituents. Barack's early political career was marked by a combination of idealism and pragmatism. He understood that to be effective, he needed to navigate the complexities of the political landscape, build alliances, and work across ideological divides. His campaign strategy involved extensive grassroots organizing, drawing on the skills he had developed during his years with the Developing Communities Project. He and his team knocked on doors, held town hall meetings, and engaged with community leaders to build a broad base of support. One of the key moments in Barack's early political career was his endorsement by Alice Palmer, the incumbent state senator who decided to run for Congress. Palmer's endorsement was crucial in lending credibility to Barack's campaign and helping him gain the support of established political figures. However, when Palmer's congressional bid failed, she sought to reclaim her state Senate seat, leading to a contentious primary battle. Barack's team challenged the validity of Palmer's petition signatures, successfully removing her from the ballot. This decision was controversial but demonstrated Barack's determination and tactical acumen. In 1996, Barack won the Democratic primary and subsequently the general election, becoming a state senator. His legislative career in the Illinois Senate spanned from 1997 to 2004 and was characterized by a focus on issues affecting working families and marginalized communities. Barack quickly established himself as a thoughtful and effective legislator, known for his ability to work across party lines and his commitment to progressive causes. During his tenure, Barack worked on a range of legislative initiatives. He championed a bill to expand health care coverage for children and pushed for reforms in the criminal justice system, including measures to address racial profiling and reduce the incarceration of nonviolent offenders. Barack also played a key role in passing ethics reform legislation, aiming to increase transparency and accountability in state government. His legislative achievements reflected his commitment to social justice and his ability to translate his ideals into practical policy solutions. Barack's growing reputation as a capable and principled legislator earned him the respect of his colleagues and the attention of political leaders beyond Illinois. He continued to build his network, engaging with activists, policymakers, and community leaders to broaden his impact. Despite the challenges and setbacks he faced, Barack remained focused on his vision of an inclusive and equitable society. In 2000, Barack decided to run for the U.S. House of Representatives, challenging incumbent Bobby Rush in the Democratic primary. The campaign was arduous, and Barack faced significant obstacles, including Rush's deep-rooted support in the district and the perception that Barack was too inexperienced. Despite his efforts, Barack lost the primary by a wide margin. The defeat was a humbling experience, teaching him valuable lessons about the intricacies of electoral politics and the importance of building strong local support. Undeterred by his congressional defeat, Barack continued to serve in the Illinois Senate, refining his legislative skills and deepening his connections within the political community. His perseverance paid off when an opportunity arose in 2004, the open U.S. Senate seat vacated by Republican Peter Fitzgerald. This time, Barack was better prepared and strategically positioned to mount a successful campaign. Barack's U.S. Senate campaign was notable for its effective messaging and strategic execution. His platform focused on unifying themes of hope and change, resonating with a broad spectrum of voters. He emphasized issues such as healthcare reform, economic opportunity, and ending the Iraq War, tapping into the growing public discontent with the Bush administration's policies. His charismatic presence and oratory skills captivated audiences, drawing large crowds and generating widespread media attention. The turning point in Barack's Senate campaign came with his keynote address at the 2004 Democratic National Convention. The speech, which emphasized themes of unity and the American dream, catapulted him into the national spotlight. Barack's eloquence and ability to connect with people across political and cultural divides resonated deeply with the audience, establishing him as a rising star in the Democratic Party. Barack's primary and general election campaigns were bolstered by a strong coalition of supporters, effective fundraising, and a well-organized ground game. He won the Democratic primary with a decisive victory and went on to win the general election in a landslide, becoming the third African American elected to the U.S. Senate since Reconstruction. As a U.S. Senator, Barack quickly established himself as a prominent voice on issues such as ethics reform, veterans affairs, and foreign policy. He co-sponsored landmark legislation on nuclear non-proliferation and transparency in government spending. His tenure in the Senate reinforced his reputation as a pragmatic and forward-thinking leader, capable of addressing complex issues with a balanced approach. Barack Obama's path to political office was marked by a series of strategic decisions, hard-fought campaigns, and a steadfast commitment to his principles. From his early days as a community organizer to his rise as a U.S. Senator, Barack's journey was driven by his dedication to public service and his belief in the power of collective action. These experiences set the stage for his historic run for the presidency, where he would continue to champion the values of hope, change, and unity that had defined his career. Chapter 5: The Road to the White House. Barack Obama's ascension to the presidency was a journey marked by visionary ideals, strategic acumen, and an ability to inspire diverse groups of Americans. His journey from U.S. Senator to the nation's first African American president involved navigating complex political landscapes, delivering powerful speeches, and mobilizing a grassroots movement that reshaped American politics. After Barack's keynote speech at the 2004 Democratic National Convention, his profile rose dramatically. His message of hope and unity resonated with millions, and he quickly became a figure of national significance. The speech positioned him as a potential future leader of the Democratic Party and planted the seeds for his eventual presidential run. In the Senate, Barack focused on a broad range of issues, including ethics reform, health care, veterans benefits, and foreign policy. His work on the Bipartisan Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act of 2006, which aimed to increase transparency in federal spending, showcased his commitment to ethical governance. Additionally, his opposition to the Iraq War and advocacy for a phased withdrawal highlighted his stance on foreign policy, distinguishing him from many of his colleagues. By early 2007, speculation about Barack's potential presidential run had reached a fever pitch. On February 10, 2007, he announced his candidacy for president in Springfield, Illinois, invoking the legacy of Abraham Lincoln and emphasizing themes of hope, change, and unity. His announcement speech called for a new kind of politics that transcended partisan divisions and addressed the real issues facing Americans. Barack's campaign strategy was groundbreaking. He leveraged the power of digital technology and social media to organize and mobilize supporters, raising unprecedented amounts of money from small donors. His campaign utilized a decentralized approach, empowering volunteers to take initiative and organize their communities. This grassroots mobilization created a sense of ownership and enthusiasm among supporters, fueling a movement that would be crucial to his success. The Democratic primary season was fiercely contested, with Barack facing formidable opponents, most notably Senator Hillary Clinton. Clinton, a seasoned politician with strong name recognition and deep party connections, was initially considered the frontrunner. However, Barack's campaign gained momentum through a series of key victories, starting with the Iowa caucuses. His message of change resonated particularly with younger voters and those disillusioned with traditional politics. Barack's campaign faced several pivotal moments, including his speech on race in Philadelphia, known as the "A More Perfect Union" speech. Delivered in March 2008, the speech addressed the controversy surrounding his former pastor, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, and offered a nuanced discussion on race relations in America. Barack's ability to tackle such a sensitive issue head-on and with eloquence demonstrated his leadership qualities and deepened his appeal to a broad electorate. The primary battle with Clinton extended into the summer of 2008, but Barack's coalition of diverse supporters, including African Americans, young people, and educated white voters, ultimately secured him the Democratic nomination. His choice of Senator Joe Biden as his running mate aimed to balance the ticket with Biden's extensive foreign policy experience and appeal to working-class voters. The general election pitted Barack against Republican nominee Senator John McCain. The campaign was conducted against the backdrop of significant national challenges, including the ongoing wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the financial crisis that erupted in the fall of 2008. Barack's calm and steady demeanor during the economic meltdown, along with his calls for comprehensive reform, contrasted sharply with the erratic responses of the McCain campaign, bolstering his image as a capable leader. One of the defining moments of the general election campaign was Barack's response to the financial crisis. He articulated a clear and comprehensive plan for economic recovery, emphasizing the need for regulatory reform, economic stimulus, and support for struggling homeowners. His approach appealed to voters concerned about their economic future and positioned him as a pragmatic and thoughtful leader capable of addressing complex problems. Barack's campaign also emphasized themes of hope and change, encapsulated in his slogan, "Yes, we can." His rallies attracted enormous crowds, and his speeches inspired a sense of optimism and possibility. The campaign's innovative use of social media and grassroots organizing continued to play a crucial role in mobilizing voters and maintaining enthusiasm. On November 4, 2008, Barack Obama was elected the 44th President of the United States, winning 365 electoral votes to McCain's 173. He carried states that had not voted for a Democrat in decades, reflecting the broad appeal of his message. His victory was celebrated worldwide as a historic milestone, symbolizing a significant step forward in America's long struggle with racial equality. Barack's election night speech, delivered before a jubilant crowd in Chicago's Grant Park, encapsulated the themes of his campaign. He spoke of the challenges ahead, acknowledging the economic crisis, ongoing wars, and the need for unity and collective action. His words, "This is our moment. This is our time," resonated deeply with those who had been inspired by his journey and his vision for a better America. The transition period between the election and the inauguration was a time of intense preparation. Barack assembled a team of advisors and cabinet members, balancing experienced political figures with fresh voices. His choices, including Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State and Timothy Geithner as Secretary of the Treasury, reflected his commitment to addressing the pressing issues facing the nation with competence and expertise. Barack Obama's journey to the White House was marked by his ability to inspire hope and mobilize a broad coalition of Americans around a vision of change. His campaign redefined modern political campaigning through its innovative use of technology and grassroots organizing. As he prepared to take office, Barack faced immense challenges but was buoyed by the optimism and support of millions who believed in his message of unity and progress. This historic journey set the stage for a presidency that would navigate the complexities of both domestic and international landscapes, guided by the principles that had driven him from the start. Chapter 6. The First Term. Barack Obama's first term as President of the United States began amidst an atmosphere of hope and enormous challenges. Sworn in on January 20, 2009, he inherited a nation in crisis. The Great Recession had wreaked havoc on the economy, unemployment rates were soaring, and the housing market had collapsed. Internationally, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were ongoing, and the global financial system was in turmoil. Against this backdrop, Barack's presidency was characterized by efforts to stabilize the economy, pass landmark legislation, and navigate complex foreign policy issues. One of Barack's first significant actions was the signing of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, ARRA, in February 2009. The $787 billion stimulus package aimed to jumpstart the economy through a mix of tax cuts, unemployment benefits, and public works projects. The ARRA faced significant opposition from Republicans who criticized it as excessive government spending, but it was a crucial step in halting the economic freefall and creating jobs. The stimulus package funded infrastructure projects, renewable energy initiatives, and educational programs, which helped lay the foundation for long-term economic recovery. Healthcare reform was a central focus of Barack's first term. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, commonly known as Obamacare, aimed to provide affordable health care to millions of uninsured Americans and curb rising healthcare costs. The path to passing the ACA was fraught with political battles. Barack's administration faced staunch opposition from Republicans and lobbying from insurance companies. Despite these challenges, Barack and his team, including Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius and congressional leaders like Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, worked tirelessly to craft and pass the legislation. The ACA was signed into law on March 23, 2010. Its provisions included the expansion of Medicaid, the establishment of health insurance exchanges, and the prohibition of insurance companies from denying coverage based on pre-existing conditions. The ACA also included an individual mandate requiring most Americans to have health insurance or pay a penalty, a provision that was highly controversial and led to numerous legal challenges. The passage of the ACA was a monumental achievement and represented the most significant overhaul of the U.S. healthcare system since the creation of Medicare and Medicaid. Barack's administration also prioritized financial reform to address the root causes of the Great Recession. The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, signed into law on July 21, 2010, aimed to increase oversight and regulation of the financial industry. Dodd-Frank established the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, to protect consumers from abusive financial practices and implemented measures to reduce the risk of another financial crisis. The legislation faced criticism from both sides of the political spectrum. Some argued it did not go far enough, while others believed it imposed too many restrictions on businesses. In foreign policy, Barack's administration worked to end U.S. military involvement in Iraq and refocus efforts on Afghanistan. In 2010, he announced the end of combat operations in Iraq, fulfilling a key campaign promise. However, the situation in Afghanistan remained complex, and in December 2009, Barack announced a surge of 30,000 additional troops to combat the Taliban and stabilize the country. The goal was to weaken the insurgency and build up Afghan security forces to eventually take over responsibility for the country's security. This strategy had mixed results, and Afghanistan remained a challenging and volatile environment. One of the significant foreign policy achievements of Barack's first term was the operation that led to the death of Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the September 11 attacks. On May 2, 2011, U.S. Navy SEALs conducted a raid on a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, killing bin Laden. This operation was a critical victory in the fight against al-Qaeda and provided a significant morale boost for the administration. Barack's decision-making process and the execution of the mission demonstrated his administration's commitment to national security and counterterrorism efforts. Barack's first term also saw significant advancements in civil rights. His administration repealed the "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" policy, allowing LGBTQ+ individuals to serve openly in the military. This repeal was a landmark step towards equality and reflected the administration's broader commitment to civil rights. Additionally, in 2012, Barack publicly endorsed same-sex marriage, becoming the first sitting U.S. president to do so. This endorsement was a powerful statement that influenced public opinion and political discourse on LGBTQ+ rights. Barack's leadership during his first term was tested by numerous crises, including the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010, which caused massive environmental damage in the Gulf of Mexico. The administration's response involved mobilizing federal resources, holding BP accountable for the cleanup, and implementing new regulations to prevent future spills. The spill underscored the challenges of balancing economic development and environmental protection, issues that would continue to shape Barack's presidency. As the 2012 election approached, Barack's administration faced a polarized political climate. The rise of the Tea Party movement reflected deep divisions within the country and strong opposition to many of Barack's policies. Despite these challenges, Barack's ability to communicate a message of resilience and hope resonated with voters. His re-election campaign emphasized the progress made during his first term and the need to continue moving forward. In November 2012, Barack Obama was re-elected as President of the United States, defeating Republican nominee Mitt Romney. The victory affirmed the public support for his vision and leadership, allowing him to continue pursuing his policy agenda in a second term. Barack Obama's first term was marked by significant legislative achievements, efforts to stabilize the economy, and a commitment to addressing pressing social and global issues. His ability to navigate complex political landscapes, articulate a vision of hope and change, and implement policies that had a lasting impact on the nation defined his first 4 years in office. As he prepared for his second term, the challenges ahead were formidable, but the foundations laid during his first term provided a basis for continued progress and transformation. Chapter 7: The Second Term. Barack Obama's second term as President of the United States, which began in January 2013, was marked by continued efforts to implement and expand upon the initiatives of his first term, along with facing new challenges both domestically and internationally. His re-election provided a mandate to further pursue his vision of economic recovery, social justice, and global leadership. The inauguration on January 21, 2013, was a moment of renewed optimism and a reaffirmation of Barack's commitment to his agenda. In his second inaugural address, he emphasized themes of unity, equality, and collective action, invoking the Declaration of Independence and its promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He outlined a vision for the future that included addressing climate change, advancing LGBTQ+ rights, and promoting economic opportunity for all Americans. One of the first major legislative battles of Barack's second term was over gun control. The tragic shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in December 2012 had galvanized public opinion and sparked a national debate on gun violence. Barack's administration proposed comprehensive gun control measures, including expanded background checks, a ban on assault weapons, and limits on high-capacity magazines. Despite widespread public support and emotional pleas from families affected by gun violence, the proposed legislation faced fierce opposition in Congress. In April 2013, the Senate failed to pass the key components of Barack's gun control plan, a significant setback that highlighted the deep divisions on this issue. Barack's second term also saw significant advancements in the fight for marriage equality. On June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court ruled in Obergefell v. Hodges that same-sex marriage was a constitutional right, effectively legalizing it nationwide. This landmark decision was a culmination of years of activism and advocacy, and Barack's support for LGBTQ+ rights played a crucial role in shifting public opinion and creating a more inclusive society. His administration's legal arguments in favor of marriage equality reflected a broader commitment to civil rights and justice for all Americans. Economic policy continued to be a central focus of Barack's second term. The economy had improved significantly since the depths of the Great Recession, but issues such as income inequality and wage stagnation persisted. Barack advocated for policies to increase the minimum wage, expand access to higher education, and invest in infrastructure. His administration launched initiatives like My Brother's Keeper, aimed at addressing opportunity gaps faced by young men of color, and the Tech Hire initiative to expand access to technology jobs. Climate change was another critical issue that defined Barack's second term. Recognizing the urgent need to address global warming, his administration took significant steps to reduce carbon emissions and promote clean energy. In 2015, Barack played a key role in the Paris Agreement, an international treaty aimed at combating climate change by limiting global temperature rise. The agreement, signed by nearly 200 countries, marked a significant achievement in international cooperation on environmental issues. Domestically, Barack's administration implemented the Clean Power Plan, aimed at reducing carbon emissions from power plants, though it faced legal challenges and opposition from fossil fuel industries and some state governments. In foreign policy, Barack's second term was characterized by a focus on diplomacy and multilateralism. One of the most notable achievements was the Iran nuclear deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, reached in July 2015. The agreement involved Iran agreeing to limit its nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of economic sanctions. The deal was negotiated by the P5+1, the United States, United Kingdom, France, Russia, China, and Germany, and represented a significant diplomatic effort to prevent nuclear proliferation. While the agreement faced criticism from some quarters, including Israel and some U.S. lawmakers, it was hailed as a major step toward global security and non-proliferation. Barack's administration also navigated complex relationships with Russia and China. The annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014 and the subsequent conflict in Ukraine strained U.S.-Russia relations. Barack's administration responded with economic sanctions against Russia and support for Ukraine's sovereignty. Meanwhile, the relationship with China involved balancing cooperation on global issues like climate change and tensions over trade practices, cybersecurity, and territorial disputes in the South China Sea. Healthcare remained a contentious issue throughout Barack's second term. The rollout of the Affordable Care Act, ACA, had faced significant challenges, including technical problems with the Healthcare.gov website and political opposition. Despite these hurdles, the ACA successfully expanded healthcare coverage to millions of Americans, reducing the uninsured rate to historic lows. Efforts to repeal the ACA continued, but Barack's administration remained committed to defending and improving the law. The second term was also marked by efforts to address immigration reform. Barack advocated for comprehensive immigration reform, including a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, border security measures, and improvements to the legal immigration system. The Senate passed a bipartisan immigration reform bill in 2013, but it stalled in the House of Representatives. In response, Barack took executive actions to protect millions of undocumented immigrants from deportation through programs like Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, and Deferred Action for Parents of Americans, DAPA. These actions faced legal challenges and political opposition, highlighting the deeply divisive nature of immigration policy. Barack's presidency was also marked by ongoing racial tensions and the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement. High-profile incidents of police violence against African Americans, such as the deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and Eric Garner in New York City, sparked nationwide protests and calls for police reform. Barack addressed these issues with a combination of empathy and policy initiatives, including the establishment of the Task Force on 21st Century Policing, aimed at improving community police relations and accountability. As Barack's second term drew to a close, He reflected on the progress made and the challenges that remained. In his farewell address on January 10, 2017, he spoke of the enduring values of democracy, the importance of civic engagement, and the need to continue striving for a more inclusive and equitable society. He highlighted the achievements of his administration, including economic recovery, healthcare reform, and advancements in civil rights, while acknowledging the work still to be done. Barack Obama's second term solidified his legacy as a transformative leader committed to social justice, economic opportunity, and global cooperation. His presidency navigated complex domestic and international landscapes, leaving a lasting impact on the nation and the world. As he prepared to pass the baton to his successor, Barack's vision of hope and change continued to inspire future generations to work towards a more just and equitable society. Chapter 8: Legacy and Post-Presidency. Barack Obama's presidency left a profound and lasting impact on American society, politics, and global affairs. As the first African-American president, his historic election shattered barriers and inspired millions around the world. Beyond symbolism, his 2 terms in office were marked by significant legislative achievements, transformative social changes, and a redefined role for the United States on the global stage. One of Barack's most enduring legacies is the Affordable Care Act, ACA, commonly known as Obamacare. Signed into law in 2010, the ACA expanded healthcare coverage to millions of Americans, reduced the uninsured rate, and provided protections for those with pre-existing conditions. While the law faced fierce opposition from Republicans and legal challenges, it fundamentally transformed the American healthcare system and extended access to affordable care to millions who previously lacked it. Barack's presidency also saw significant advancements in LGBTQ+ rights. His administration's repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy allowed LGBTQ+ individuals to serve openly in the military, while his endorsement of same-sex marriage and advocacy for marriage equality helped pave the way for the Supreme Court's landmark ruling legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide. These achievements represented a seismic shift in public attitudes towards LGBTQ+ rights and contributed to a more inclusive society. On the global stage, Barack's foreign policy emphasized diplomacy, multilateralism, and engagement with adversaries. His administration negotiated the Iran nuclear deal, signed the Paris Agreement on climate change, and worked to restore diplomatic relations with Cuba. While these initiatives faced criticism and challenges, they signaled a departure from the unilateralism of the previous administration and reaffirmed America's commitment to international cooperation. Barack's presidency also coincided with significant social movements, including the Black Lives Matter movement, which emerged in response to police violence and systemic racism. While his administration took steps to address these issues, including the establishment of the Task Force on 21st Century Policing, racial tensions persisted, underscoring the deep-rooted challenges of racial inequality in America. After leaving office in January 2017, Barack and his wife Michelle remained active in public life through the Obama Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting civic engagement, leadership development, and community organizing. The Foundation's initiatives include the My Brother's Keeper Alliance, which focuses on addressing opportunity gaps faced by young men of color, and the Girls' Opportunity Alliance, which seeks to empower adolescent girls around the world through education. Barack's post-presidency also saw the publication of his memoir, A Promised Land, which provided a candid and introspective account of his presidency, from his early years in politics to his time in the White House. The memoir offered insights into his leadership style, decision-making process, and the challenges he faced during his presidency. In addition to his philanthropic work and writing, Barack remained engaged in political discourse, offering endorsements and support for Democratic candidates and speaking out on issues of national and global importance. His influence within the Democratic Party remained significant, and his endorsement was often sought after by candidates seeking to galvanize support and energize voters. Barack's legacy continues to shape American politics and society, inspiring future generations to pursue public service and work towards a more just and equitable world. While his presidency faced its share of challenges and criticism, his vision of hope, unity, and progress remains a powerful force for change. As America grapples with pressing issues ranging from healthcare and climate change to racial injustice and economic inequality, the lessons of Barack's presidency continue to resonate, serving as a reminder of the enduring values of democracy, compassion, and resilience.